into another episode of Mentor Corner. This is your host, the founder of RIFL Corp, Mr. Andre Rivers. And I know we're going through some weird times right now, but out of all the bad news for business owners, we did get some good news that the tax deadline would be extended until June, which is a benefit. And that made me realize, hey, let me release this Mentor Corner from a good friend of mine, Mr. Jerrell Thompson. He's a CPA, a tax accountant, and he does real estate. And he's basically going to give us some information regarding the benefits to being a CPA financially, as well as the difficulties that he had to endure growing into his craft. And lastly, he's going to give us more information regarding taxes and how to prepare ourselves to receive proper tax benefits or to receive the proper write-offs, and basically how to stay safe as a business in regards to taxes. So don't want to talk you guys head off. I want everybody to please stay safe out here, stay in the house, all that good stuff. Check out our new episode of Mentor Corner. Andre Rivers, and I'm out.
I am Jerrell Thompson, and I am a certified public accountant, an IRS enrolled agent, and a licensed real estate agent. I got into accounting, real estate, tax preparation services because I saw a need in the underserved communities. Just to give you a little bit more of a background on myself, it started with myself. I had a kid when I was really young. I was 14 years old. I had my freshman year in high school, and my entire life I struggled financially as a result. I was constantly just trying to figure out ways to basically help us provide financially, seeing as how I was under the 8 ball by being a single parent, and my daughter had a very rare medical condition called the McCune-Albright syndrome. So I knew at some point not only would I be responsible for the day-to-day requirements of being a single parent, but I had the added pressure of putting myself in a position to be able to fund multiple surgeries for my kid and just make sure going forward she had all of the other opportunities that kids from the inner city would also have, like I had myself, like to be able to go to college, to have some of the finer things in life, to get her first car on time, to be able to go and enjoy a Sweet 16. So all of those added pressures really encouraged me to learn what I needed to learn about money, because I never really saw it as a way to get rich. I just saw it as a way to just be financially efficient so that I could take care of my household. And in doing so, I ended up being curious about these different lines of financial services, and trying to help myself. I put myself in a position to help a lot of other people along the way. So now I have all those licenses as a result of really just trying to be able to make sure me and my daughter could survive. And then I really started figuring out that not only did these situations apply to myself, they apply to the other people that I meet on a day-to-day basis. Some of the financial difficulties was just understanding all of the tax compliance stuff that came along with just running a business, buying and selling stocks, buying and selling real estate. Every turn, you're faced with a situation where you have to just be efficient with your resources, and tax planning was a big one. Like I remember when I first started working, even though I had an accounting degree, I had a lot to learn in regards to tax law, how to save money. And then when I got into business, I realized my companies, even though I was an accountant, they could be structured a little bit better in order to be able to shield myself from some of those additional taxes that business owners have to actually pay. And now that I'm able to save myself from some of those additional taxes, now I can take that money, reinvest it in real estate, reinvest it in my companies. And I see a lot of businesses that first start up struggle with those very issues. Most people don't realize the way that you structure your company means a lot more than just smacking an LLC on the end. It's really about kind of structuring yourself for success long term, getting a tax system in place where you're paying everybody that needs to be paid. You're not double dipping, meaning you're not spending money that should have been spent in taxation. You're not forgetting to collect sales and use taxes. You're not forgetting that you're going to be responsible for self-employment taxes if you don't structure a certain way. So it's really about, like, a lot of companies realizing, because when you work a W-2 job or you have an employment opportunity, someone is paying all of that stuff for you. And most of the time we start off with a job and then we turn something into a side hustle, and then that becomes a business. But once you quit your actual job, what you have to realize is no one is paying taxes for you anymore. So once that becomes the case in your life, you have to realize when you're making money, taxes are due. And I want to say 75% of the issues that I see are around people not understanding the tax liabilities, the tax ramifications around all of the different ways and unique ways that people are starting to earn income these days. So really, I want to say Accounting and numbers are the language of business. So no matter what you do, it's always going to come back to numbers. I can tell a lot about a company or management by what I look at when I look at the P&L, or what I see when I look at the balance sheet, or how savvy someone is when it comes to their tax situations. So managing my own financials really came into play because before I went into business myself, I always kind of treated myself like a business. I always had those kind of accounts set up for myself. I would, even though I had a W-2 job, I would go in, I would do my tax estimates before I quit my job, so I would know each season what I could expect to do with what I could expect to receive with the refund, and then as soon as I got the refund, what I could expect to do with it. So I was always good at looking ahead, taking my current situation and trying to maximize it and master it, knowing what works for me, and then taking the plan that I put together for myself and just execute it. And then when I got into business, all of those same skills and attributes that made me successful then allowed me to be successful now. Things I wish I knew beforehand. I wish I knew about scalability beforehand. I feel like when I first got into business, I really didn't understand the concept that there aren't enough hours in the day for me to really make hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of dollars just off one person. Like if I created a model that was more scalable starting out, that means I would have employed more people, I would have created more jobs, I would have been able to serve more people, I would have been able to touch more markets and essentially increase my bottom line probably 10, 20, 30x of what I was doing when I first started out, because I thought, I had to put all of the work in myself. Because, working in corporate or whatnot, that's kind of what I was used to doing. Like, willing myself to the finish line, managing my caseloads or whatnot. And I hadn't really got to the point where I was managing 50 people at once. So because I left corporate at 27 and I really didn't get a chance to get into those high-level managerial roles, now I'm like kind of forced at 30 to like learn those things myself on the fly. But had I really learned managerial skills back then, and I really learned how to scale an operation along with that, I feel like I'd be a lot further along than I am right now, because people don't realize like when you go into business for yourself, you're self-employed. Self-employed means you're trading time for money. And if something ever happens to you, you get the flu, you're not feeling up to it today, you sprain your ankle in a basketball game or something, you can't get around a little bit, now your income is directly affected or directly impacted by that. But when you own a business, essentially you own a system. And when you own a system, that runs no matter what. So it was really about me understanding that and realizing that being self-employed is not the same thing as being a business owner. So now that I'm like kind of learning all those concepts and kind of building my operations out a little bit differently, like I could kind of see the difference in like, how my life is going, how much more time I have, how my mindset is a lot more clear, how I'm enjoying what I do a little bit more. Darker moments of my journey. I would say the darker moments were kind of in the beginning when I was unsure of myself, because a lot of the people that you look to support the decisions that you make are the people that are closest to you, people that you love, your loved ones. But you got to realize that they're 9 times out of 10, they don't come from a generation or era where following your dream or chasing what's important to you makes all the sense in the world. They come from a generation where people will work 40 years in a role that they weren't too happy with just to provide for their families. And we're like shifting the paradigm to trying to do both, trying to be happy, trying to spend time with our family while loving what it is that we do. So it was really dark for me when I first started out, for the simple fact that my mom, my dad, like people in my family, they were telling me I was making a big mistake, and I was doing real well at the firm that I actually left. And they were basically saying the same thing, like, well, how you want to fend for yourself out there? Like, you haven't learned X, Y, and Z. And I'm saying to myself, I know I could figure anything out. Like, I'm a pretty hard-working guy, and I figured a lot out up until this point. So I believed in myself, but it was super dark when you leave a job where only you believe in your vision, no one else believes in it, no one is encouraging you, no one wants to invest in it, only one that sees it is you. And then literally everybody you care about, you respect, are doing the exact same thing you just stopped doing. That could put you in a place of like just serious discomfort, depression. I remember my first year of entrepreneurship, I was severely depressed. I didn't talk to my peers as much because they were working from 9 to 5, and I'm literally in the office just cranking away, trying to figure out ways to grow my business. And then when I'm calling them, we don't have the same problems. They're bragging about something that their manager said to them at work or something like that. And I could honestly care less about that. And they could probably care less about the fact that, I'm out here trying to scale my business or grow my business as well. So it's kind of like I really didn't have anyone to talk to or vent to about what I was going through and vice versa. So I kind of felt isolated. But honestly, that just made me stronger at the end of the day, because if you want to do anything and you want to see something that most people don't see, you're going to have to, travel alone and then, bring people along later after you understand and once you learn. And I feel like, honestly, now taking on that mindset, it honestly keeps me ahead of the curve a little bit. And it allows me to, like I said, further be able to provide for my family, my daughter, and make sure that long term, we'll be okay. And anybody that wants to believe in what it is that I'm doing, I'll definitely share the knowledge and help them get to where I'm trying to go as well. Employers and employees. Okay, so if you're an employer, meaning, you own the business or you give out jobs, I would just say the bulk of it is already done. A good payroll system, you can use ADP. You've got softwares out there like QuickBooks that make it super simple to go through, run your payroll, file your quarterly returns. If you don't know it yourself, you hire an accountant like myself to go in, keep track of all of that stuff for you. Make sure your employees are getting their tax documents on time or even ahead of time. If you're an employee, I would just say just making sure that year over year, your record keeping is A1. The tax return itself, I want to say for me, it isn't the most difficult part. The difficult part, or the part that really impacts people the most, is what they do with the tax returns and the records after the tax returns are filed. Because your preparer is not responsible for the accuracy of your return. You are. So if anything should ever arise where the IRS comes back or the state comes back or sales and use tax parties come back after you or something like that, and they want to see what it is that was done with your tax return, your tax preparer may be going in the wind. I see it happen all the time. But keeping clean records and keeping a clean track sheet of what transpired, what you gave a person, what they gave you back, it means everything in the world. Because if you got to come find somebody else, or you should ever need to draw back upon these documents to maybe buy a house or protect yourself against an audit, your records are everything. That's like your holy grail. So I would say for employers, just make sure you're getting people their documents on time. And if you're on the other side and you're responsible for filing your own return, make sure you get yourself a competent professional and make sure you constantly always got a great record keeping system and you storing this stuff digitally, electronically, paper file, whatever the case may be. Just make sure it's easily accessible for you forever. I would advise you to never throw anything away. I just did a case where we went back to 1989. I was born in 1989. Seriously, 30 years ago, I had to go to the courthouse and pull documents from 30 years ago to represent somebody in a refinance. So in that situation and whatnot, yeah, it may seem like 5, 10, 15 years is long enough. You just never know. And had we been able to secure the document that I was looking for, she would have basically been able to save 5 figures more than she was actually able to save. She lost out on close to $14K because we couldn't find one piece of paper. So what I would say is just make sure you always keep track of your documentation. And with technology these days, these shared drive services, these cloud-based services, it shouldn't be that hard to do. So just try to make that a priority as well. So right now, I'm at a point where I'm fortunate enough to start employing people, scaling out my operations, like I said. But I also just took on the role of the A.N. Davis Family Foundation Incorporated. Anthony Davis, he was a football player, All-American out of Jersey. He played at Piscataway High School with some of your Eagles like Malcolm Jenkins. They were on the same high school team. He played football at Rutgers University. Then he did several years with the San Francisco 49ers. He came back. He's now coaching at Rutgers and Piscataway High School. He wanted to create a nonprofit. I assisted him in setting up his nonprofit. He also asked me to just step up to be the CEO of the nonprofit. So now, this year, I want to get into philanthropy myself and get into the act of giving back, giving those inner city kids a chance at college or whatnot. I'm more big on education. He's bigger on sports and whatnot. Even though I played Division I basketball, I recognize that our next generation needs to kind of shift. I feel this way. I feel like our next generation needs to kind of shift more away from sports and get more into more political roles, more business-based roles, more roles where we kind of use our minds, because I kind of feel like as a culture, we've kind of taken our athletes and made them our spokespeople, when they're responsible for knowing 88 plays on any given day. So it's just really not fair to ask them to know what Donald Trump is trying to do, or what any of these other politicians are trying to do wholeheartedly, when we can have a whole group of other, young scholars or whatever come up in the ranks and prioritize education. And we need to start promoting those people, because I remember growing up and going through school and thinking, well, I'm only cool if I play a sport, or I'm only relevant if I play a sport. And my thing is to kind of, I guess, give more social currency to the kids that are actually trying to get a good education, trying to making sure that they got application money to file to go to these different schools, making sure that they got the college prep programs in place for after school programs, so that they can consistently grow and enhance their education, so when they go to school, they really have a chance to stand out, and they're not encumbered by all this other stuff. And what we're hoping to do by doing all this stuff is to create an insanely huge family where we support each other on our educational journeys. And of course, athletes will be supported within their group as well. But we just want everybody to realize that we have to put more emphasis on what we're learning and not just on what we're doing. So that's kind of what the foundation will be supporting, or will be built around. And I'm going to put a lot of my effort starting after tax season into this actual foundation, and trying to, I guess, increase my social impact in that way, because I think it's time. Like, I've done enough. I got a unique enough story where I feel like I can relate to a bunch of kids or a bunch of adolescents that are trying to come up in the ranks and kind of do some of the same things that I did, and I'm passionate about that next. So I would say it's less about business and more about giving back for me going forward. Whatever you want to do, whether it's accounting, finance, music, politics, education, doesn't matter. You just got to realize that your idea in itself is unique. Don't ever think that your idea or what you want to bring to something has already been done, because it hasn't. The only one that can see a vision is you, and there's only one version of yourself. So stop limiting yourself. Stop listening to the people around you just because they might not see your vision, because the older I get, the more that I learn, I start to see that, people can only see as far as they've been sometimes. So you can't expect someone else to see what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and the time is now. Stop thinking you got forever to do what it is that you're trying to do or what you want to do. You just got to go for it. And if you fail, it's only a failure if you don't learn anything from it. Like, there have been plenty of things that I've done in my life that I haven't checked off all of the boxes that I wanted to check off, but the small things that I've learned along the way help contribute to the person that can give back and is trying to help other people blossom and grow today. So I would say the time is now. Go for it. Stop holding yourself back. Stop putting mental blockades on yourself. And if the people around you that are not supporting what it is that you're trying to do, it's simple. Just find new people to be around. There are people that will support your mission, that will support your vision, be great resources to you, and you just got to keep being patient and sticking to your guns until you actually get around those people, and until your ideas start to materialize. Because what you want to do is so important, and the world needs it, and you really got to believe that. And if you can believe that and you can put it out there, you'll make this world a better place. We all got to do our part.